Problem solvers become history makers. This is the third video in a little four-part series I am doing. So welcome. My name is Andrea. I'm excited to have you here. My channel is pretty new, called Thrival now. My desire is to challenge you and encourage you to live your best life now and to go from survival to thrival, my little word for thriving. So I want to see you break out of surviving or the survival mentality in your physical body, or in your relationships, your finances, and your spiritual and emotional aspects of life. My journey, I started off just a few days ago. I think we're on the 10th or 12th day, something like that, for my little 365-day journey of vlogging every day. Not a typical vlog, but one that I'm just posting videos every day on my journey. And I've embraced a mini habit. So you can go back and check out those videos of why I started this video, or started a YouTube channel, and how I'm looking to use a mini habit every day and committed to that publicly. That's why I'm vlogging each day for the next, or for this 365 days. So yeah, just happy to have you join us, whether it's just for one video or somebody that comes back and decides to jump in and join us in this journey, or even perhaps a year or two down the road, make that journey on your own. So just to recap, this is the third video in this four-part series. The first one laid out really how this paradigm shift took place in my life and why I've come to believe that your biggest problem is your greatest opportunity. And then so much so that I think of it as paradigm shifting as getting glasses when I was in grade 4, truly. The second video looked at the rewards we get for solving problems. And this video, the concept I want to explore is how problem solvers become history makers. Just to give a little backstory again on myself, if you haven't seen any of my previous videos, I'm an avid reader, definitely a bookworm, and I've conservatively estimated I've read about 2,000 books in my life. These are books on leadership, psychology, history, and biographies. And I particularly love biographies for one reason, and that is that I've been fascinated by leaders through the years and people that have made history and been world changers and history makers. And so I've always been curious about the story behind the story. It's so easy to only see somebody once they have made the pinnacle of success in whatever area it is, whether it's pop culture or politics. I mean, you pick whatever field and you name it. Very rarely do we ever get to see the story behind that story and how they came to be who they were. And as I began to study these people and these lives and how there were certain people that seemed to live extraordinary lives. They used their gifts and their talents. It's like they spent up all the energy they had. They used all their potential. They left it all on the line. They left their mark in the world. And the one consistent thing that I found over and over was that the battle that they had fought, often in childhood or in their younger years or earlier years, the battle that almost destroyed them ended up becoming their platform. So many people sum it up in fun phrases. You can't be a winner unless you win something. You can't be an overcomer unless you overcome something. There's, great phrases. The one that I have hung on to, though, for all these years, and the one that I created for myself to embody the lesson, is that your biggest problem is your greatest opportunity. Those are words that I put together to totally symbolize that revelation for me and how I've lived, encouraging other people and talking myself through many challenges that I faced, helping myself to look beyond what it is in the immediate moment, the pain, the frustration, the every facet of what problems embody, right? So you can pick your favorite hero or heroine in any area, and I challenge you to study this for yourself and play it out. When I think of my favorite heroes and heroines, the ones that stand out as great examples, I mean, it's easy, and many of them might come to mind for you as well first, but I often think of Nelson Mandela. Here's a man that led South Africa to freedom and basically helped destroy apartheid. And I always come back to the fact that would he have been the leader in South Africa for freedom if he hadn't endured on nearly 30 years of imprisonment? He was a prisoner, a political prisoner, and many, many of those years were in solitary confinement. I mean, 23 hours a day where he had a lamp in his room and nothing else, and it messed with his mind because he couldn't determine what time of day it was or what hour. So bad that I think he went nearly 2 years without seeing even his wife or having a guest in prison. So a man that struggled with imprisonment was the one that led South Africa to freedom. I also think of Grandma Moses or Harriet Tubman, and I actually just recently saw the amazing film that came out. I think it was a few years old, but I just happened to watch it with my kids recently, and oh my gosh, I was moved to tears. I remember reading a book about Harriet Tubman when I was like 8 or 9 years old, and it was extraordinary, this life that she lived. And the question is, could Harriet Tubman have been the woman that led 70 or 80 people to freedom on the Underground Railroad during the horrible years that mark America's history of slavery, if she had not been a slave herself and overcome that and battled for her own freedom? I would argue no, that she couldn't have been. That the fact that she had fought and found freedom, and the fact that Nelson Mandela fought for freedom in prison, are both reasons that they could make their mark in the world. And so, as far as pop culture, one of the stories when I started digging into this and looking to write this and kind of encapsulate this message into my first book, which has yet to be published, but one of the stories that intrigued me for some reason a lot was the story of Sylvester Stallone. Loved the Rocky movies when I was a kid, and now they have a little bit more of a connection in our family because my husband is from the inner city of Philly, about just a few blocks from where the Rocky movies were filmed. And so anyone who knows him gets a full Rocky tour when they get to Philly and go through the neighborhood with him. And so there's just a new point of connection there. But anyhow, here's this, Sylvester Stallone, was interestingly enough, when he was born, there was he had to be delivered, the doctor had to help deliver him and used forceps. So forceps were a certain type of instrument to help pull the baby through the birth canal. And there was an accident in the delivery, and the forceps severed a facial nerve that was connected a few different places around his face. And so because that facial nerve was severed, that's where you get that signature almost scowl, that slurred speech, and the little bit facial droop that he is known for. He had a really hellish experience as a young man. I believe he ended up in foster care for a number of years in Hell's Kitchen in New York. Was always drawn to the movie business and tried to make a break into that industry as a young man. And after graduating high school, he did some years training to be an actor. But no one would hire him. They thought he looked stupid, ridiculous. They made fun of how he talked and what he looked like. And he could hardly get stand-in roles in large crowds in movies. He really just faced complete closed doors in that industry and could not break in. And so ultimately there was an opportunity, things came together. He ended up writing the script for Rocky. Really a profound story and fun if you want to go look into it. But in writing the script for Rocky, he knew there was such a deep connection to his own life and overcoming his life as it was, and overcoming the problems that he'd faced, that when he went to take this script to sell it, he had initially he faced a lot of criticism about the script. It was almost too predictable and different things. He finally found some buyers, and they were willing to buy it, but they refused his one demand, which was that he have the starring role in it. And so they kept offering, the increase, I think it went up to something like, it started at $50,000 or $60,000, and they kept coming back and offering him more and more and more, and went all the way up to about $300,000. But he stood his ground, even though things had gotten so financially hard for him and his wife. It gotten to the point where he had to sell his own dog because they could hardly pay their rent or feed themselves, and I think he could only sell it for like $25 at the liquor store. It was brutal, and he said that dog was his best friend on earth and offered him even more than his support than his wife at the time. But ultimately, he held his ground. He just knew he could not sell that script when he was born for that part. And so he ended up later selling the script, found some buyers that would produce the movie, and he negotiated, I believe, a certain percentage of the royalties as well. I don't know the exact number, but that opportunity ended up launching his whole career and his incredible run in the film industry. And all because the very thing that gave him every reason not to get in and every reason to have doors slammed in his face, whether it was this facial nerve and the disability that he faced that way, to the fact that, you know, financially he had been in such a rough position and could hardly break in any other way, and had very few resources to draw on. As far as how this concept ties to me personally, I had a hard childhood. I was bullied a lot. I was quite a loner, mostly on the outside, and just really struggled socially, just dealt with a lot of rejection. It was hard, and I would never wish that on anyone. And I know many people had it way, way worse than me. But as far as my road, that was a tough season. And I fought terribly to get through it and not just survive it, but I wanted rich, meaningful friends. I just knew that there was more to life than living the way I had been, and whether that was being rejected by other people. And so I applied a lot of things. I didn't just wait for it to happen. I went through a personal transformation, learning how to become a better friend. And I mean, I thought I was a good friend already, and I had a great foundation to start with because I had I had great parents, but there was a lot I had to learn. And as I jumped into it and fought through that pain, I began to make lifelong friends. And there came a moment that, I mean, it was like learning to ride a bike. It was like from that point on, I never had an issue with friendships. And everywhere I went, I could make friends anywhere, and I attracted people to me, and I had there was just a comfortability in who I was, and I think some of it is learning to be friends with yourself first is a powerful thing, because when you love to be around yourself, other people enjoy being around you as well. And so there were a number of things that went into play, but I'll tell you that I am so different from that person who lived, you know, through that in school, junior high, high school. I count myself as one of the richest people in the world with the friends and the friendships that I have. And I have come to realize that that pain point, one of the reasons that I had to fight through that was because I have a gift, and I do have a desire to make a place for those who are on the outside, who are marginalized, who feel lost or alienated and rejected. And it's important to me to seek those people out and to make a place. And so I find it interesting that in even just this one area of my life, I can see that point of pain that I overcame has become a platform to use my gifts and talents and just live a more meaningful life. And so whatever you're facing today, whatever those problems are, only you know. They might be a huge number of little problems. It might be one or two big problems. But I just, you've heard it before, but I'm here to say it again. You're made to overcome, and in order to be an overcomer, you have to overcome something. So I leave you with this nugget that problem solvers are history makers. And I encourage you to ponder this idea deeply and try to prove me wrong. But if you see value in it, then comment or like this video, share this video, and give me your thoughts. Share your experience. Share what the pain is that you're fighting or you have overcome and the platform you've found in that. I value your time, and I'm so glad to share this with you. Thank you.